as plans are now set for a memorial for conservative political activist Charlie Kirk. That memorial will be held next Sunday, September 21st at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. That stadium seats over 63,000 people. This new information as investigators in Utah still trying to piece together exactly what led up to Kirk's shocking assassination. Officials say the suspect they have in custody is this man, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. More details have surfaced about Robinson's background, but there are still some key questions about what drove him, a scholarship winner from a close-knit suburban family, to that rooftop where he allegedly fatally shot Kirk. CNN's Danny Freeman is joining us now from Utah. Danny, there are still a lot of people who have a lot of questions about how this happened, why this happened, what this man's motive might have been. What are you learning there on the ground in Utah?
That's absolutely right, Jessica. Still so many outstanding questions about 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, the main suspect in this shooting case right here. He currently is in the Utah County Jail. That's about 250 miles northwest of where we are right now in St. George, Utah, where he lived, grew up, where his family lived. And as far as we understand, he's not speaking to authorities at this time. So we've seen investigators here on the ground in St. George really combing over every piece of evidence they can to try and understand what might have driven this young man to, again, commit this shooting allegedly against Charlie Kirk earlier in the week. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do know at this point. Like you noted, Jessica, as far as we understand, he was living a fairly normal life here in St. George in southwest Utah. He was a good student. He was a part of a close-knit family. He got a merit scholarship specifically to Utah State University. He only ended up attending that university for about a semester. Then he ultimately left. He went on to a technical college. He was working to try and study to be an electrician. And he was very into video games, as we've learned from other people who have known him, who have spoken to CNN, but also pretty quiet as well, and not overtly political unless prompted. In fact, an electrician who actually worked with Robinson not too long ago said to CNN that he wasn't very talkative unless you talk to him first, and that comes with politics as well. Now, this all despite bullet markings that had memes inscripted on them, also some video game language as well. Investigators still searching for a pinpoint moment, a clear moment that they can look at to say this is maybe what drove him to, again, take that drive and go and take that shot at Charlie Kirk. I want you to take a listen, though, to what the governor of Utah told Anderson Cooper last night when asked about the question of how this possibly could have happened.
There's so much we still don't know, but certainly there was a radicalization that happened in a fairly short amount of time. And again, that's not too. Sometimes when we talk about people getting radicalized, that's to blame others instead of the person. And I don't want to take away that agency. This person made a terrible decision and will pay the price for that.
Now, one thing I'll just note, Jessica, Robinson was a registered voter, I should say is a registered voter, but he's unaffiliated with any party in the area that he is registered to vote down here in southwest Utah. The other thing I'll note, Jessica, is the big date that we all now have circled on our calendars is this coming Tuesday. That's when formal charges will be filed, and that's when we're expecting to see Robinson make his first court appearance. And then the following week, as you noted, that memorial that's going to be upcoming for Charlie Kirk in his home state of Arizona. Jessica.
All right, Danny Freeman with the latest from Washington County, Utah. Thank you for that. Let's bring in retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Gagliano. James, thank you for being here with us. I really appreciate it. Let's listen to what the Utah governor said about this suspect.
I think maybe what stands out is that nothing stands out the way you would normally expect. This is a good family, a normal childhood, all of those things that you would hope would never lead to something like this, and sadly it did.
I think a lot of people, as we just were talking about with Danny, are searching for answers here, searching for what motivated him to have allegedly done this. What stands out to you as we hear from the governor there of Utah explaining that in this particular case, what is kind of weird is that there was a normal childhood, in his words, that sort of thing?
Yeah, Jessica, I think we're really at an inflection point here. Look, the country is no stranger to political violence. We've had 4 presidents assassinated while they were in office, and even in recent vintage, whether you're speaking about Gabby Giffords or, Justice Kavanaugh, this is not normal, but it's almost expected in the high-ranking official realm. The fact that the target here was an interlocutor, it was somebody that was engaging in debate on a college campus, that's what kind of makes this stand out as slightly different, that we've moved into a different paradigm. Now, having said that, to put a fine point on your question, what are the similarities and where's the incongruity here? And here's the thing. Let's look back at the last 4 or 5 mass shootings. They've all involved, whether it was the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler, whether it was the attack in the church in Minneapolis, whether it was the assassination of the CEO, the healthcare CEO in Manhattan. These are all young men. They're all in their early 20s. They're all millennials. They're disaffected and disconnected. And Jessica, that's the thread between terrorism and criminality, and in this instance, a political assassination. It's the thread that you've got to pull on, that these are young people, young men.
And if you dig a little deeper into that, where do you go from there? Is that being extremely online? And the governor's right. There is, this is not to take away from any choices that somebody made here, but to be extremely online, to have the potential to be radicalized by that.
You certainly do. I mean, the opportunity that we can, pick up our phone, it's a personal computer in our pocket, and we can be anywhere in the world. We can listen to things and see things. There are no borders, and that's a good thing. However, I know that in the past there were discussions about violent video games, and I know that that's been debunked and knocked down, that violent video games and the generation that grew up on them, that doesn't necessarily lead to mass shootings. These are people that obviously have mental illnesses, but they obviously have the ability to kind of lack humanity, that they can look at a person, like whether it's Charlie Kirk or President Trump or someone else, they can look at them, see them absent of being a human. And look, being a sniper is different than being a mass shooter. Mass shooting is much more personal and up close. Here, this shooter was about 200 yards away. It's almost like the God complex, that I can take your life from here, but I don't have to be close enough to touch it or see you. So it's a very interesting paradigm in what we're facing right now in law enforcement.
And then, James, take us into the investigation right now, as someone with a lot of experience within the FBI. What are they doing right now? What happens next?
Yeah, there have been a lot of criticisms. And look, I'll say this, to catch this guy in 33 hours. Now, initially there was speculation this was a trained professional assassin. And I think many of us that speak about this for a living and that have a law enforcement background and were former snipers in law enforcement or in the military knew that that wasn't the case. It was a very short range shot. And just the manner in which the shooter tried to egress out of there. If he had jumped off that building, gotten into a car, and drove off onto I-15, he could have been hundreds of miles away before anybody could have tracked him down. But to be stumbling around the parking lot, stumbling around the contiguous neighborhoods, you knew that this was an amateur. Look, there's a lot of work to be done. The first part is, thankfully, thank God, we have this person in custody. Jessica, now the hard work begins. Putting the case together. I'm certain that they're going to attach murder charges at the state level here, and then maybe the feds come in. Is it possible to attach a political assassination statute to this, or a terrorism statute, domestic terrorism? Absolutely possible, and I think we'll learn a lot in the next couple of days.
James Gagliano, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate it.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.